Hello, everybody. Thank you guys for joining. We're going to go ahead and get started. A few more people maybe jumping into the session as we're go through the webinar today. So just feel free to jump in. We are going to be opening things up for Q&A. So as we go through this, please input any questions that you have into the chat box. We'll got some folks here on the KTL team that are going to be monitoring the session and looking for questions, things like that. If you have any, we're going to try to get to as many of them as we can today, and we'll address those. If not, we don't get to them, we will your account manager will follow up with you and get back with you on your specific questions that you had and try to address those issues and go through that. We are going to be recording this today, so the session will be recorded, and after today's session, an email will go out with a link to the recording as well as the presentation deck and everything that we're going to be showing today. So that will be going out to everybody, so you can share that with other members of your team that couldn't make it and go through that. So anyway, we appreciate that, and we'll be going through all of that content and doing a lot of coverage on different things today. So the agenda for today is going to be, we're going to talk a little bit about the annual licensing renewal process for GCC-H customers. Some of you have already gone through the process because you've already renewed. You've been in the GCC-H for over a year and we've already renewed you. Some are new into the environment, and we just want to kind of review what that annual licensing renewal process looks like. Currently, we want to talk about some really exciting news about some new streamline option for being able to provision additional licenses, that you can do this on your own and don't have to come through KTL for some of that. So we want to talk about that and describe that to you. Then we're going to shift gears a little bit and talk about some new features in GCC-H and Azure Government. Andrew Lally is going to cover some of those topics. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the new Dynamics 365 apps and items that are available in GCC-High now that you may be interested in. But then Andrew is going to cover several topics that are more technical in nature and go through that. And then David Bedard here at KTL is going to just talk about and provide some updates on what's going on in CMMC and some services and prep services that KTL is offering to a lot of our new clients, and wanted to just get this out to the entire customer base. So one thing is that everybody on this call today is a current GCC-High customer. They're either already have been in GCC-High for a while or in the process of being provisioned and set up in it. So these are only current customers are in here. We plan on kind of setting up a normal cadence for these types of calls. There's a lot going on in GCC-High around compliance and CMMC compliance requirements and things in that area. There's things and new developments going on all the time within Microsoft, within Azure Gov and GCC-High, and just new things that are going on. And we feel like having these types of education and webinar sessions for our customers to keep you guys up to date on everything that's going on will be very, very productive. So just be on the lookout for more of these types of sessions that we plan on offering to you guys and moving forward with it. So and we'll get some regular schedule put together and do that. As we go through it, if you have some content or ideas that you want to cover on future sessions, please feel free to submit those to myself or to your account manager so we can get those on the agenda. And we're also going to be leveraging bringing on other Microsoft folks from the government and the GCC-High Cloud team to attend and help moderate some of these calls as well, to bring some content and those types of things. But due to some vacation scheduling and things like that, we couldn't get those folks to join us today. So just to let you know, that's our plan moving forward. So let's talk about licensing renewals. So as all of you know, that the process for GCC-High is purchase your licenses in advance. You've got those in, paid for them for the year, and you have the ability to add licenses and increase license counts throughout the year add new subscriptions, do those types of things. We're going to talk about some new procedures around that. But essentially, your original purchase of your licenses started on a contract date. And from that point, you go through an annual renewal process that's going to come up. So basically, what's going to happen is you're going to receive a renewal notice from KTL about 90 days prior to the expiration of your contract date. And that email, which I'm going to show you, it will include some pretty detailed instructions on timelines and timeframes and what you need to do. But the email is going to also include an actual license renewal quote, a sample which I'm going to show you here in a minute. But that will have the license renewal quote, and that will reflect all of your current licensing in your GCC-H tenant at that point. So it could be the licenses that you purchased on the original or your first day of going into GCC-H, but then if you added licenses throughout the year, those licenses would be reflected in there as well. So it's just going to basically reflect your current license count and everything that's in there. We essentially have to place the renewal order with Microsoft about 45 days prior to the contract date. So we're trying to get you this information and this renewal quote to you as quickly and as early as possible. We need to place the order 45 days in advance. So for example, if your contract start date was July 16th, we would need to be able to just place the order or let Microsoft know of your intention to renew based on that license count up, and you have the ability to adjust at this time too, but that we have to give them an update of that about 45 days in advance, so around 6/1 with this particular example. At the time of renewal, this is also the time that the only time currently that you can reduce licenses. So if you want to eliminate or get rid of certain subscriptions, eliminate them altogether, or you want to reduce license counts or seat counts for any particular subscription, this is the time to do it, and you have the ability to make those adjustments at the renewal stage. And that's where I'm going to show you, when you get your quote, where we can make those adjustments in either reducing license counts. Many customers have also used that as an opportunity, as a time to increase or add new subscriptions as well during that renewal process. Once you've approved the renewal quote that I've sent you, so we send the renewal quote over to you. In many cases, we've gone back and forth and creating different versions or adjustments and things like that. We will send you a final version for electronic signature. And once we get back your the signature or the signing of your renewal quote, we will go ahead and send you an invoice. We will send you the invoice as soon as we get back the renewal quote. We don't need the payment of the invoice is required prior to the contract date. So even though we may send you the invoice 45 days in advance from the time that you sign it, the invoice is technically due by the contract date. So we will send that over to you and send you that license. So, okay. This is an example of what your sample email would look like that we send you. You can tell this outlines a lot of what I just discussed in terms of what's included, what the timelines are. So this will be personalized directly for your company. This email will reflect your contract date and the expiration date, and will outline specifically the key milestone dates of which we need some responses back from you and need that information back from you to make sure that we successfully renew your licenses and everything. So this is an example. Again, you're going to get a copy of this deck that will walk through everything, but this will outline and be very targeted to your specific use case and specific contract dates, giving you the dates, timelines that need to be met as a part of the process. So this is what your actual email will look like. I've just kind of highlighted in yellow where your customer name would appear or where certain key dates would be referenced as a part of the email that we send you. Okay, attached to this email is going to be a license renewal quote. I know this may be a little small. Sorry, I hope you can read it on your end, but this is a copy or an example of a quote that we worked with an existing customer that we did various things. So they got this particular agreement. This outline of the quote showed their current licenses. We worked with them in adjusting counts. So in the yellow column there, you'll see where we adjusted counts. Some of the areas they reduced license quantity, other areas they increased license quantity. We could have at the same time also added new subscriptions. If they didn't have those, we could have added some new subscriptions in here as well. But this was at this time, they used that as the time to add some and drop some of their license and seat counts for their different areas. It comes up, shows the monthly cost for each of the licenses, then with an annual license count. And then with this particular customer, we had a adjusted annual cost based on the license adjustments that the client requested, and came up with a new adjustment for their tenant. Once this is signed, we just send out an invoice that reflects these totals and these license counts, and we from there, once we have the signed renewal quote, and we place the order with Microsoft, and we invoice it, and at that point your tenant and everything is renewed for the next year, for the next calendar year. So anyway, that's wanted to give you an update on that. So let me pause here for a second. Have there been any questions? Just to make sure if there's any questions that have popped up like during this part of the process, just we can talk, let's just go.
One of the questions is, does CMMC require the use of a digital labeling service like Azure Information Protection to protect CUI stored on GCC-H?
Andrew?
There are controls saying you should be labeling your documents. How you label that doesn't say you necessarily have to use Azure Information Protection. You can use any solution you want. You could probably just use watermark yourself and manually add them. Though I would say a solution like Azure Information Protection would help out a lot more, because you could also restrict document access based on those labels, as well as document movement, and kind of configure your DLP policies to reflect what those labels represent, rather than just kind of writing on the documents.
Okay. Are there any questions related to the license renewal process or anything like that in the process at this point? Okay. Okay, great. So for those of you that have been through the license renewal process, you already knew this. Sorry for the repeat, and nothing new there for you guys, but for a lot of the other customers that are on there, this is a new process, and just want to make sure you're aware of what to expect and what the process looks like. Again, we document this and give you very instructive emails to help guide you and walk you through this to make sure the licensing renewal is done on time, and giving you plenty of time to make adjustments in license counts if necessary, as well as adding some new subscriptions if you want to. So kind of on the line of adding licenses, let's shift gears a little bit to probably one of the areas that you guys will be most happy about, is the new, easier, faster way to provision additional licenses within your GCC-H tenant. As we know, this is a process that has not been extremely a real rewarding experience, and has been a little lengthy. The process has typically been, you got to reach out to me or one of the account managers here at KTL, request additional licenses. We've got to send you an invoice, go through the process, submit the invoice, submit the order to Microsoft, and at one point, even though Microsoft's gotten better, those licenses could take 3 to 4 weeks to be added. Maybe now it's been a little bit less time, but it does take has been a very painful process. So in the new process, we've got some new things set up, which is really, really good to go. Is that this feature is you can now go in, and this feature has mostly been enabled real quickly in all the .us tenants. So, and a lot of the .com tenants. So if some of you, depending on when you came into GCC-H, your tenant says, on Microsoft.us, some of the early entrance into GCC High. Their tenant name was on Microsoft.com. There have been some changes and transitions there. Pretty much all of the .us, which reflect the newer tenants, are set up for this provisioning. The .com tenants, I think they're working very, very hard to get all of those cut over. If they're not set up and you have problems walking through this process, if you let us know, we can submit a support case and they just have to get this cut over or set up, and they can then push and get you migrated over and get it set up so that you would be able to do that. So if you run across any problems in your initial process of this, feel free to contact us and we will go through it with you. The key point of this is that moving forward, you're not going to have to go through KTL any longer to add licenses to current subscriptions. Now, what does that mean? And it says, you know, if you want to add a new subscription, you still will have to go through us. So the process, if you have M365 E3 or Office 365 E3, and you just want to add additional seats or licenses to that subscription, you can do that on your own. You don't need to come through KTL. If you need to add a brand new subscription, like I need Power BI Pro, I don't have any Power BI Pros in my tenant, you will have to come to us initially to add a new subscription to the tenant, but you do not need to come to us to go and add or increase your licenses to an additional an existing subscription. So you can go in, do that on your own. You do not have to go through us. The actual provisioning, once you place that order, that license is going to show up in, I'm going to say conservatively within 24 to 48 hours. That will be available for you. So it's going to be much, much faster. Once you place that order and you go into the licensing center and place that order, that's your commitment to purchase the licenses. We're not going to invoice you in advance. What will happen is KTL will be notified of the fact that any of our clients have gone in and made license additions, and we get notified of that. We will then send out to you, after you have already added them, we will then send you out a prorated invoice that will reflect the new licenses that you just added. We will prorate that to the anniversary date of your contract and send that out to you. So you can do this all on your own, add the licenses, get them up, get them available, make them available for your employees and your team members on your own, and you'll just get an invoice from us after the fact. Now, as a part of the renewal process, Microsoft does recommend that you really do not do any additions or reservations of new licenses within the 45 days of the contract anniversary date, because we're in that window of renewing your annual contract. They would prefer, they want to obviously stay away from those dates, because then, you know, you've already, you know, submitted or will be submitting very soon your order for your annual renewal, and there's a kind of a reconciliation process that needs to go through. So the best thing to do would be to try to stay away from making those license additions during that window, if you can to do that. So we just need to stay away from that part of it. So this is I think a big plus. It's going to make it much easier for you guys to add licenses for your team members as you guys have grown and continue to do it. We're probably processing new license requests for just additional licenses for existing tenants multiple times a week for our customers. This will make it much easier on you all to do this in a lot faster process, and then just get invoices from us afterwards. Just to be clear, though, if you're going to add a new subscription, meaning a type of application that you don't already have, you will still need to come through us for that initial setup of that subscription. But once Power BI or whatever it is that you're using is in your tenant, you can then add license counts on your own, because it will be, that subscription will be in your tenant. Again, we'll send you out this deck. The process is fairly intuitive. This is the link that you would go to get to the Volume Licensing Center. You're going to land on, you know, this is just a quick screenshot of the screen, and you're going to log in with your credentials that you've got, get in there, and then you can add those licenses and go on with it. So as I said, you can do this on your own. KTL will get notifications after you've done the license counts, and we will invoice you afterwards, but these are something that you can self-manage and do on your own now at this point. So, okay.
One question.
Yeah.
So one question that have come up is if they want to purchase IaaS service, if they want to stand up some VMs in Azure Gov for their tenants, do they go through KTL or is that handled through another channel?
You want me to take it?
Yep.
So it depends on your current data center at the moment. Microsoft released their new kind of Azure data center for Gov, everyone that ends in .us, if you're on Microsoft.us. And in that process, the CSP side of Azure Gov was not connected to it. So I ping them once a month to see if that's ready to go. I'm waiting on my monthly response for this month because I was told it should be connected hopefully at the beginning of this month. So in that sense, if that comes out, then you can come through KTL or another CSP. If it's not ready and you're in the .us area, the new Azure data center, then you can just do a subscription directly through Microsoft pay-as-you-go with a credit card, and then when it becomes available, you can switch your subscription to KTL and be billed out and pay by check or whatever else kind of works for you. So right now it's a little bit of a limbo.
Yep. One thing on that, I think it probably does make some sense to go through KTL potentially because there are some gotchas when you're provisioning tenants and licensing requirements, when you're provisioning VMs or certain IaaS type services in there, and best practices and some recommendations. And because we've done so much of it in the Gov space as well as the commercial space, there are some tips and tricks there that to go, especially if you're on a pay-as-you-go thing. You don't want to get a situation where you've configured or provisioned something and all of a sudden we've had customers where they've been surprised with big bills because of some provisioning that's occurred in there just to do that. So I would recommend that we take a look at that piece of it, but we could go through that. So. But I think the CSP piece should be in place so you can go through KTL for the billing. So, okay, so let's shift gears here a little bit, talk a little bit more. So I think that kind of addresses the renewal process and your ability to provision additional licenses, which I think is good news. One quick thing I want to just switch to before I kick it over to Andrew is that one of the things that's new to GCC-H, especially for many of you customers that have been in GCC-H for since 2018 and early 2019, Dynamics licenses were not available in GCC-H until really about probably mid part or latter part of last year. So Dynamics 365 customer engagement apps are available in GCC-H if for that purpose, if you need them. So there are the traditional CRM, and customer engagement is the terminology Microsoft uses now, and it's a suite of CRM or customer relationship type project, applications. You got field service, you have a kind of a customer service case management type of tool. You have sales, which is a pure kind of lead opportunity CRM type of license, and then project service. So these are all, if you need these services and these applications in GCC-H, we're having a lot more requests for that. A lot more customers, GCC-H customers, are interested. Not only are they moving into, GCC-H with their Office 365 apps and all those, but then they need their CRM in there as well. I wanted to let you know that these are available. We're not going to go through the details of each one of them. My suggestion here is that you reach out to your account manager. We can do demos for you. We can talk to you more about the capabilities and benefits of each of these systems as you evaluate them for your organization. So I just wanted to give you some update there. In addition, there's also Power BI, Power Apps. All that Power Suite and Power Platform is available in GCC-H now. We have customers that are utilizing and those applications. So if you're looking for those, I want to let you know. You will notice that there are some customer engagement apps that are not available in GCC High. I don't know the roadmap for these, but marketing and talent, retail is not, the voice of the customer application is not, and some of the AI functionality for customer insights and market insights and sales are not available in GCC High right now. And we can send you out a link after this call as well if you're interested in it, because even within some of the other apps, there is some functionality within sales or customer service, things like that may not be available as well. But for the most part, there is a lot of parity there. But just like it was before, some of the things that are available in the commercial space aren't available in the GCC High space, as all of you have come to know. So anyway, so let me shift gears a little bit here to Andrew and talk about some of the more new things coming or that are set up in GCC High and Azure.
Yep. So one of the hot topics I'm sure everyone's aware of is the sharing outside of the GCC High or Azure GOV platform, and specifically Azure AD B2B. It wasn't really available at all not too long ago, last year. The beginning of this year, they have started rolling it out in kind of a phased approach. So right now, it's just getting B2B working inside of the GCC High environment itself between all the tenants. Currently, they started with everyone in .us, and there was a date in which everyone provisioned after that date was enabled, and they were backporting all the early adopters or people that jumped into GCC High sooner. Once that is completely working, ready to go and tested, and all the kinks are ironed out inside GCC High, the second phase that they're shooting for is getting cross-cloud B2B support for SharePoint and OneDrive sharing. So this would kind of open up the door for commercial to GCC High and all the companies that kind of have two different tenants for their commercial side and their GCC High side. It would be on GCC High and the customer's responsibility to ensure you're not sharing stuff with the wrong people, or that the other tenant is following the best practices that you guys laid out. It wouldn't really be Microsoft's responsibility to stop it. So it would put some more effort on your side to allow that. Phase 3 of the process is B2B support for Teams, which would be pretty great. So those last two phases don't really have any type of roadmap for it. I didn't put the link on this slide, but it's in the notes for the slide, so we can add it before publishing it. But this was taken from a post from Paul Meacham that is on one of the public boards where somebody else asked what's going on with Azure AD B2B. So he kind of goes in a little more detail of it. Next one. The other kind of major hot topic is the PSTN calling plans. That still is not available, and we have no idea if ever it's going to be available. I haven't seen anything mentioned on a roadmap. Microsoft did add kind of this year the direct routing support. So you can get calling integrated with Teams through both individual numbers as well as conference lines. That does involve external services that you would either need to make sure they're compliant, or you just kind of scope out calling as many people are now. So the recommended way or documented way, if you want to deploy everything yourself and bring your own kind of trunk lines and all that, is to deploy a session border controller in your environment in Azure, somewhere where you can install it. Microsoft has one that you can deploy. There's a lot of third-party vendors that make certified controllers. For the majority of our customers, it's probably a lot of effort that wouldn't be worth it. Expensive to set up and maintain. Luckily, though, there are vendors that are coming out with direct routing integrations. So if we go to the next slide here. Two of the vendors, Call Tower has already published that they have a solution working with GCC High. 8x8 is one that we use and a lot of our customers use as well. They have their Teams integration that is supposed to be going live this month or the beginning of this year. They're still in their private preview now. So the solution there would be just like in commercial or GCC, your users that want calling would still need a phone system license. So that doesn't go away. So you would license all those users phone system, and then you'd be able to kind of integrate the direct routing so that you can then have it connected to Call Tower 8x8 or another provider that has Teams direct routing support.
In this area, this is one area I wanted to add here that we're trying to work with some of these providers and some of the new providers that are coming to the table to learn more about their solution, create some partnerships, and be able to get those kind of offers out to our customers, new customers, existing customers, and that would maybe also be a one of the groups that we may offer or invite to attend one of our next sessions to specifically focus in this area and be able to provide some special packages and offers to our customers around this Teams calling type features.
Okay, Azure Gov is another spot where some exciting stuff has happened in the recent months. If you're not already aware of it, there is a URL you can go to. You can type in Azure services by region in Google, and it's normally the first result. It's also up on this slide. But this will allow you to type in the workload that you want and then choose the data centers you want to see if it's available. So if you go to the next slide here, this is the page. So you can see in this example, I put Windows Virtual Desktop and Azure Active Directory domain services. And the data centers I chose were Virginia or Gov Arizona, Gov Texas, and Gov Virginia. And you can see that Azure Active Directory domain services is available in all three of those. Windows Virtual Desktop is a non-regional solution, but it's got that little clock symbol, so it's not available. When you do see that clock symbol, you can normally hover over top of it, and it'll tell you kind of what the estimated delivery date would be, or delivery quarter. In this case, this one is still kind of in its pre-deployment phase and not available to everybody. Some of the features that were added that are especially useful in this space is Azure Sentinel. So that's Microsoft's cloud-based theme that is pay-as-you-go. So there isn't really a huge upfront cost. Ingesting your kind of Office 365 logs are free, but the storage does cost depending on how much you're storing. Another big one is Azure AD domain services. So this is essentially replicating Active Directory up into Azure, but instead of doing your normal kind of sync from on-premise to Azure AD, it'd go the other way around. So cloud users you make in Azure AD go the other direction. And I'll go into a little more detail in a different slide. Windows Virtual Desktop, that is going to be covered. That would allow you to do kind of secure virtual areas for users to work so that none of your control data will leave your environment rather than downloading it to whatever device they're using. So we go to the next one. So Azure Sentinel is a SaaS-based SIEM solution by Microsoft, as I said before. The benefit here over some of the other providers is kind of pay-as-you-go. There really isn't a minimum. You do have the option to prepay if you are going to ingest a lot of logs and you know how much you're going to use. If not, you can start with just pretty much zero and pay for as you ingest and as you store, and adjust how long you store things as well. Just like every other SIEM, it'll allow you to aggregate your logs from across organizations. So now you can have your routers, security appliances, anything on-premise, your Windows servers, anything that kind of does syslog as well. Can push all that stuff to Sentinel. You can then use that to write queries to automatically detect situations or find issues that might pop up. You can have it investigate it, alert you, and you can log in and look at kind of graph to see what is happening. And then kind of another benefit of it is you do have an automated response capability. So when you kind of get an alert, you can configure it to run different scripts or functions to take action, be it reach down to your on-premise environment, do something, disable an Active Directory account or disable Azure AD account, block access, and so forth. And this would help with your CMMC level 3 audit accountability requirements that does kind of have in there to use a central repository for your logs, as well as control who has access to them, be able to report on them and query them and reduce the logs to kind of spit out a report that is viewable and reviewable by somebody rather than just a bunch of data that they probably won't be able to review all of it for. Azure AD domain services, another one that is exciting to me because of its use case. So this would be, instead of deploying a full Active Directory server, I can deploy Azure AD domain services. I'll get what seems and looks like an actual Active Directory server. I can install Windows users' computers and access the Azure AD domain services just like I would a normal Active Directory server. I can do the DNS functionality. I can do group policies. I can do all of that. And what that'll allow you to do is kind of shift those workloads that have dependencies on an Active Directory server or on LDAP into Azure and kind of reduce your IT workload, because now you don't have to worry about these Active Directory servers. Microsoft's going to give you those underlying services as a SaaS application, essentially, with an SLA that they support. And then Windows Virtual Desktop, unfortunately, is not available yet. On that page, you saw the little clock symbol. That's slated for Q3 of 2020. Pretty excited about that with the Azure AD domain services. So you can use Windows Virtual Desktop to provide kind of that secure desktop environment for your users. The benefit of this one is it'd be a Windows 10 machine versus a Windows Server machine, as well as Microsoft has kind of modified Windows 10 in this scenario to do multi-session. So now I can double up or triple up, or as many people as I really can fit on that compute resource, and kind of optimize and save money that way instead of doing individual Windows 10 VMs for each person. Kind of your benefits there is you'll kind of reduce your risk and hopefully reduce the amount of effort that you have to go through to secure everything and document, because you can more or less make that secure enclave environment so that you can reduce the boundary of what your control data traverses. And then with the session-based, you can kind of pack people onto a machine more efficiently. And with Azure pay-as-you-go, you can turn the machines on and off and stop paying for them. Storage is relatively inexpensive compared to everything else, and the compute resources is really where you'll be paying the most. So at night, when the majority of your office may not be there or nobody's working, you can turn everything off, down just one machine for those late night workers, or have processes that monitor how many people are working and turn machines off or scale up and down depending on what your workloads are. Now, this isn't available yet, but combining this with Azure AD Domain Services, I can now kind of skip all that whole on-premise infrastructure situation. I can have my cloud-only accounts like a lot of our customers are trying to do. I can set that up. I can deploy Azure AD Domain Services, let that sync my cloud accounts into that container. And now users will be able to remote into the Windows Virtual Desktops using the same accounts, usernames, and passwords that they were using for Office 365, and kind of still keep that one identity without having the extra overhead of running your own Active Directory servers with Azure AD Connect, and then having to secure all that, apply updates, and make sure everything's up and going.
Great.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, it's
So I think before we shift gears to the next section to get into the CMMC stuff, things like that, are there some technical questions that have popped up, Lily? Anything in there that we need to go through?
One question that James had was that he got a message from the Microsoft Message Center, and it states that the reservation orders are a financial obligation that will be realized during the true-up or annual order process. It's based on the usage date of the reservation and the quantity reserved, and he wanted to ask if they add licenses and pay for it when they renew. Do they get a bill from KTL for the add-on? And ask if you could clarify on.
Yeah, the option is, so the renewal process at the annual renewal period, there's two things that would occur depending on how we build or reconcile throughout the year. If you were to add licenses throughout the year, you would get two bills. You would get one, the bill for your annual license renewal for the upcoming year, or the new year moving forward, but then you would also would receive an invoice for back billing for you know, the 9 months you used that license for that portion of the current year. So the part of the renewal process is ensuring that all invoices and all licenses from the previous year that have been added have been reconciled and paid for. And then your new license for the upcoming year would reflect all of those licenses as well, because you had added them throughout the year. So KTL, you know, has their different options to do it and bill that at the end of the year, or do it as the invoices are or the orders are placed. KTL's decided that we're gonna let the customers continue to do that, but we'll invoice just to keep better track of them and not have huge bills or upcharges at year end. We're going to bill those as the orders are placed, but they will still be prorated bills that we're gonna send out. So hope that clarifies it. And if not, James or anybody, obviously don't hesitate to call us and we can walk through that process of how we're going to do it moving forward, how KTL is going to do it moving forward. Any other questions? Any on technical stuff or anything?
That's it.
Okay, great. Okay, let's shift gears a little bit and let's just talk about, I know all of us have CMMC on the top of our heads. You guys are everybody's dealing with it, asking about it, and you know, I don't know that there's any crystal ball out there, but we'll share with you some of what we know is the latest and greatest information at this point. So David, you want to jump into this?
All right, thank you, Steve.
Yeah.
How you doing, everybody? So today we're just kind of going to go through some of the state of affairs with CMMC, the assessor program, and what's going on with the DoD and where their Pathfinder program's at today. Yeah, I do wish I had that crystal ball and could tell you exactly what's going to happen, but I'll just keep it to the facts at this point. Back in late June, the CMMC accreditation body did open up registration process for C3PAOs as well as assessors and registered practitioners and registered practitioner organizations. The funny thing was, before they even released the information out to the over 5,000 individuals that wanted or expressed interest in the audit and assessor program, the first day they opened it up, they had 34 companies register that same day, and over 80 individuals, you know, registered for the assessor track. And that's based off of information coming from the chairman of the accreditation body, Ty Schreiber. So what's going to end up happening is they're going to review all the applicants for the assessor track, and they're going to select the most qualified of the 60 individuals out of those assessor tracks, and they're going to be part of that initial assessment phase. They're going to be the ones that are participating in the Pathfinder contracts. And you know, that's supposed to be starting based off of some of the information from Regan Edens and Jeff Dalton over at the CMMC. It was supposed to be sometime in the July timeframe. We're sitting in July, so who's to say if it's going to actually start their training in July or if it's going to bleed into August? We don't really know. We're still waiting on the DoD to release the Pathfinder contracts for that provisional program. So it's going to be an interesting timing of everything. So as we kind of learn things, you know, on future webinars, we'll be able to provide some additional information. But for now, just know that the GSA decided to go faster than the DoD, and actually they just released their STARS 3 RFP last week, and there is specific language around preparing for requirements for the CMMC, both level 1 and level 3 requirements. So who do I pay attention to when I'm looking at the CMMC and requirements? You pay attention to the biggest dog on the park. You pay attention to Katie Arrington, the CISO over at the DoD at the Office of Undersecretary in Defense and Acquisition. What does she say about the CMMC? You know, do I do anything? These are questions that she gets asked. What do I do? How do I do this? Well, she basically answered the question on a recent CREST webinar that says, yes, you do. You do start now. You do you got to get moving. There's plenty of resources out there. You have the DoD with the CMMC requirements spelled out. You have Project Spectrum that they actually are supported by the DoD. You have your local PTAC centers. Okay. She went on to also explain that the audit is something that will be due at the time of contract award. So, it's really one of those things of needing to make sure that you're paying attention to what the key stakeholders are saying and doing out there from the CMMC accreditation body, as well as Katie Arrington and the folks over at the DoD. So one of the things I like to do is I'll go on LinkedIn and I'll follow these folks. I'll follow Ed Regan. Regan Aidens. I'll follow Jeff Dalton, John Wheeler, Katie Arrington. So this way I'm kept up, abreast of certain things that are going on, because I'm finding out, okay, CMMC Academy is holding a webinar next week and Katie Arrington is the keynote speaker. That just got announced today. I knew about that 3-4 days ago. So there's plenty of resources out there to kind of keep on top of everything. You got to start now. You got to plan. You got to prepare. Organizations as a whole, they need to practice their ABCs. As a kid, you practice your ABCs. Now you know them, by heart. You can start in the middle of the ABCs and probably complete it. You might actually be able to do it from, backwards and forwards and backwards. But as an organization, you need to build compliance into your entire organization. You always have to be compliant. Your CMMC certification is only going to be valid for 3 years. Okay, it is a snapshot. It is pretty much taken from the commercial areas. When you look at the PCI requirements, when you look at healthcare, you see the validation, how long they last, what happens if there's a breach. Things are reviewed, your certification are reviewed. So you need to always stay compliant. You need to make sure that it's built into your company culture. So where do we start? When it comes to CMMC, everybody on this webinar, you've started. You've gone over into GCC High. You've taken that first step. You know that, being ahead of the game is always being the best, in the best place. But don't let it stop there. You want to have a partner that's going to be able to be there to help walk you through the process, tell you what's missing, tell you what you might need. So that's really what our CMMC consulting services are all about. It really begins with a phase 1, performing a gap analysis. Okay, sure, we know what licenses you have in place. We can look at that information, but we might not have configured your applications and services. We might not have talked about or know if you have a data backup solution, log management solution in place. Okay, so we don't know what we don't know. So we will go through and we will walk through a gap assessment against the 171 and CMMC technical controls. It's going to be scoped around the Office 365 and Azure Active Directory, unless we talk about that ahead of time. But really out of that, we're going to provide you with documentation that's going to show you what's in place, why it's in place. So this way, if you get questioned about it, you have documented evidence that shows what's been configured, how it's been configured, why it's in place. But we'll also, more importantly, show you what's not in place. Okay, and in that regards, we're going to show you what's not in place, but also recommend products and solutions, whether you choose to use a Microsoft product or solution, or whether you choose to go outside the, as far as Microsoft environment. That's really up to you. But it's really a matter of understanding where your gaps are and how to close those gaps. Okay, and then we move on to phase 3, which is actually change implementation, where we've put those solutions in place, or you've put those solutions in place. We go back through, we redocument all that information to show, okay, these out of place items are now in place. This is the reason why they're in place, to be able to provide you with that final deliverable. Okay, it's going to show you where all the areas that you are in place, as well as all the areas that weren't in place that are in place now. And you'll be able to utilize that, pull that into your SSP documentation to be able to show that those controls are mapped to the NIST 800 171 requirements and CMM requirements. So one question I get asked is, how much time am I going to have to implement controls after an audit is actually initially performed by a C3PAO? You're going to have 90 days. Okay, you go to the CMMC website, they kind of spell out a lot of the information, but you have 90 days after that assessment's done to implement those controls. Okay, same as some of the other commercial certification processes that they haven't specifically spelled out that if 90 days go by, what's the process after that? I'm sure the auditor is going to have to come back in. They're going to have to, check and all the areas that were in place to validate they are still in place, and that could get pretty costly. So it's better to start planning for your big ticket items now. Make sure that they're getting in place. So this way, when you have that 90-day rolling window, that you're not caught having to buy something last minute. It gets very expensive. So, with that said, just wanted to kind of wrap things up. I hope everybody found this very informative, and I'm going to turn it back over to Steve.
Great. So we have, as I said, we're going to share this deck out afterwards. There's a lot of content we've gone through very quickly, trying to be cognizant of time here, make sure we finish on time. Lily, are there any questions, things like that are in the chat?
We answered most of the questions as they came along, but one question we haven't asked is has KTL looked at Google's new government cloud offering, the Azure workloads for government? If so, how's that different from Microsoft's offering? And do you expect that it will have any effect on Microsoft's GCC-H?
Who's Google? No, just kidding.
I've looked at it briefly, but I haven't gone in full detail. My understanding is it's just their cloud service and wouldn't entail the G Suite side of it, though I could be wrong. If that's the case, I wouldn't really expect any impact on the GCC-H side of things because people still need email. They still need all that, and normally the people that are looking at GCC-H are doing it because they don't want to host Exchange, they don't want to host another mail server or deal with any of that kind of headache. Will it have an impact on Azure Gov? Maybe. It looked like it was still in kind of preview, so I'll wait and see once it gets out of preview where it's at.
The other thing there would be, and I mean, it doesn't surprise me that they put together maybe a government cloud, but in terms of Office 365 or the Office suite, I mean, 95% of the Fortune 500s are using that platform anyway. So we feel like it's still the premier business application tool set and solution that's out there, and so to be in a compliant environment for document creation, content creation, and communication, still pretty premier. So but there's going to be other players certainly that are going to come to the table. So, but I have not researched it at all either, and we'll do some research there. So, anything else, Lily? Okay. Well, great. Again, I want to thank you guys for everybody for joining today. I know we've had some questions and addressed them. If there are any additional questions or ones that remain unanswered, we'll go back through them, get back with you, get some answers back to you on everything. We'll be sending out the recording and this deck after the call, and be on the lookout for some other ones of these. I would like to be able to have them on a regular schedule as new information and new things come out, which is moving very, very quickly at this point, and that way we can keep you guys educated and up to speed. If you have any updates, I know many of you are frequently adding new licenses and things like that. If you have any questions in going through that process initially the first time, feel free to reach out to us. We can walk through it with you, do a screen share, jump on with you, and go through that, and we can go from there. So again, thank everybody for attending today, and we look forward to continuing to work with you. Thanks. Bye.